William Smith is an underdog in the science field. He is mostly regarded as the father of English geology. Today, I will be presenting a biography on his life, achievements, and his legacy. Chapter 1 Introduction. At one point, geology was nothing more than a hobby compared to a profession. Only those who were wealthy and had time to spare inquired on the large scale history of the Earth. The explosive impact of coal mining in the late 1700s required a better understanding of geology, led to more job opportunities. So, as geology being a hobby, only the wealthy had time to go out there and explore and get a better understanding. Back then, they were called naturalists instead of geologists, and the only reason why more and more people got into the field was because the explosive impact of coal mining required a better understanding of. They needed a map of the rocks around them to understand where the best mining for coal was, and they needed a map where the cross sections could be drawn uh, through the Earth's shallow crust and visualize its depth. So that's one reason why geology started started rising. Who was William Stratus Smith? William Smith, 1769 through 1839, was the son of a blacksmith, and unlike most founders of geology of his time, he was not very wealthy. So William Smith's father died while he was very young, leaving him to be orphaned, and him being that led him to be not being born into a very wealthy family. He didn't have the necessary funds to go out there and do things, but he still made a way. Even though he did not have necessary schooling, he made sure he was well off and excelled in mathematics and drawing. This would come to help him later in life as he drew large scale drawing of maps, and at the age of 18, he was apprenticed to Edward Webb and made an excellent surveyor, taking on any task in his way. Now, Edward Webb was also another surveyor, uh, which helped Smith get started off. And this is a picture of Smith here in the right hand corner. Major breakthroughs. Smith had the opportunity to observe fresh bedrock exposures in areas which would normally be covered by heavy vegetation. What Smith discovered was the area which he was surveying had a Jurassic sequence. As he saw the sequence over and over again, he not only understood the formations, but also the characteristic fossils in each unit. This allowed him to distinguish rock units by their fossils alone. So, as he saw the sequence over and over again, there was a pattern behind the rocks and a correlation to the rocks and the fossils that were within them. So this gave him the idea. He's like, why are these fossils in these rocks and these fossils in other rocks? So this gave him the idea of sequence like time periods and sequences. So whenever like one of his geologist buddies or whoever he would be approached by, they're like, can you can you sort these fossils by these rocks? And he could easily point them out. And this led them to be um, they were very interested in his discovery. And on the right here, the sequence of fossils. As you can see, there's fossils, and each of them um, have rocks on the left, so that are correlated with each rock. Big concept. Understanding geology gave Smith an advantage. His observations of geologic history of England allowed William Smith to make the first geologic map of an entire country. So as I said again, his drawing skills and his understanding of geology before there was even a time that there was a solid foundation gave him the one up ahead of everybody else. As I said, the first geologic map of an entire country, because he would take on any task in his way, he was more than willing to take on this task as well. Popularity rising. Other geologists were stunned of his ability to predict where the fossils in his collections came from and arrange their collection in stratigraphic order. So as I said again, there was a pattern between the rocks and the fossils, and that's how uh, he came up with this idea. He discovered this idea. By 1799, Smith's list of fossil characters were circulating among geologists. However, Smith was not making a profit as other geologists were taking credit and his reputation for his discoveries. Now, this was probably the biggest mistake Smith could make because he was not publishing his work and he did not gain any clout from this. He spent so much time researching this and going out in the field and doing all of this, and he did not make a name for himself. And even today, if you Google William Smith, you won't get a picture of William Smith in the first search. You'll get, I believe, like an actor, but you just Google William Smith geologist or geology to get a search for him. So him not publishing his work was really big for him, big mistake for him. Since Smith had not published or established any of his work, but his idea of final succession emerged in France and used to great success. Even though final succession emerged in France, the French said, "Yeah, it's our idea. We came up with it ourselves." So yeah, here's the Jurassic sequence of Central England, as you can see. The map that changed the world. This is probably his greatest creation, and this map has a lot of impact in the geology field. Smith first embarked on his journey to create the first geologic maps of England in 1799. He used almost all of his funds on this project, which resulted in the map being published in 1815. So the time between he took to create the maps were about 15 to 16 years. That's a very long period of dedication, and at the same time, he wasn't making lots of money. He used all of his funds for this project, and I'm also guessing since he was traveling around a lot, he was really busy making this map. He didn't have the chance to publish his own work. The map was dubbed the map that changed the world by geologist Simon Winchester as it launched the modern field of study of geology as a study. So this map can be credited to geology as a whole. It got other people going out there as well. Geology was no longer a hobby for wealthy people. It was actually now a real scientific field. The map is so accurate that it can be used today. Smith drew a cross section on such a large scale, showed the sequence of rocks England had regular repeatable pattern, which was easy to understand. Now, this map was, as you can see, is still accurate today, but this he also did not make any money off of this map because it was being resold without his permission. Many copycats were being made and circulating around. They're probably more cheaper than his own. And yeah, since these maps were being circulated, he probably did not get the reputation he was intending for it, even because his project was such a long endeavor. Conclusion: people had no problem plagiarizing Smith's map and selling cheap knockoff versions. He had no money from his grand project, and as you can see, as I said before, 20 years going around the country and not making any money was detrimental for him because when he returned, he was sent to debt prison in 1819, and when he was released, he found out his home and property had been seized. Now, Smith had an attachment to his property because it was his childhood home and everything, and he was very disappointed and sad that they had taken that away from him. However, he was employed again by Sir John Johnstone and developed a rotunda and museum dedicated to the geology of Yorkshire coast. So Sir John Johnstone was a previous employer for Smith. He hired him before to do a project for him. So when he heard that he had been, he lost everything, it was locked up, he took pity on the man and hired him once again. He was later acknowledged as the father of English geology. In 1835, he was given an honorary doctorate by Trinity College in Dublin. In 1838, he was appointed one of the commissioners who would select the site for the new palace, Westminster. He died in 1839 at the age of 70. So he mostly started getting recognized at the end of his career. Um, yeah, his rep he didn't make a good foundation for himself earlier on in his career, and that came back to bite him. Even today, however, he's getting his name's getting out there. I read an article where they said that they named a couple places after him. One interesting place was a crater on Mars. I think that's really cool. I don't think Mars was even discovered. I don't know. I don't think Mars was discovered back then. So I think that was one really cool thing they did for him. Yeah, he died at the age of 80 at the age of 70. William Smith's final resting place in St. Peter's Church, Northampton. And finally, the citations. These are the citations for where I got the information from, where I got some of the pictures from that are used in this, the charts. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you.